Part 6, Miss Jenny in the horror game. I pretended to be a weak, pitiful character and begged the top player to cooperate with me. The comments were filled with curses. Go away, you parasite. Are you trying to rely on Miss Xiaoyu? Go away. But later, when the top player was surrounded by monsters, her life in danger, I easily defeated the monsters and saved her. Opening my eyes, I found myself sitting on a black moving bus. Pressing the button, a dark black game console appeared. Accompanied by a splendid and sinister opera melody, blood-red words flowed across the holographic screen. Welcome to the S-Class horror clone, Miss Jenny. You are the lead singer of the school choir. Summer vacation has come. You and your classmates go on vacation to a suburban castle. This clone requires role-playing. Your personality must be a pitiful little white flower. Your side quest is, receive the love of all players. Otherwise, I was a little stunned. I, a person who can strike a tiger to death with lightning, have to play the role of a weak and pitiful girl. It's really awkward. My name is Li Kuai, a small Taoist priest of the 21st century. My master is from the Xiaoyao sect, Fumang Mountain, and is best at spells, charms, and summoning. I am super strong. Even my master had 2 front teeth broken by me. In order to help my senior sister repay her debt, I accepted the invitation of a horror game and entered this mysterious game space. If I win, I will receive a large sum of money. If I lose, I will naturally lose my life. From now on, I must tell everyone that I am lonely, pitiful, and helpless. The inside of the bus was dead silent, the air was stifling and heavy, the students were dozing off. The person sitting next to me was a cold and charming older sister. Long legs, bangs, an arrogant and cold expression, meticulously applying mascara in front of the mirror. On the name tag on her chest was written Experimental High School Nguyen-Hu-Du. The bullets on the live stream suddenly became lively. Nguyen-Hu-Du is a player in the top 100 of the general rankings, right? The little white flower is so lucky to be sitting next to Nguyen-Hu-Du. She is the young lady of the Nguyen Corporation, and also the president of Xie Tang's fan club. This time, she entered the game to pursue the great god Xie Tang. Exactly. Her personality is as arrogant as Xie Tang. Wanting to be recognized by her is harder than flying to the sky. Xie Tang is a great god in the game, and also my friend. We worked together to overcome 2 clones, but most of his fans hated me. Nguyen-Hu-Du was the president of Ta Duong's fan club. It seemed a bit difficult to be liked by her. I risked talking to her. Your eyelashes are really made up. The car braked suddenly. The mascara poked into her eyelids. The cold young lady instantly turned into a panda. The 2 words, beautiful, were swallowed back into my mouth. I quickly rummaged through my pocket to find a tissue and gave it to her. Nice to meet you. My ability is a bit lacking. In the future games, I hope Hu-Du will help me more. The young lady glanced at me, her black eyes filled with contempt and disgust. I hate people like you the most, always ho-ho-ho like a parasite. Sweet, weak, pitiful, and helpless. Taking advantage of beauty, complacently relying on the strong like a decoration. She lifted my chin with her index finger, her eyes looking down at the name tag on my chest, her nostrils twitching in disdain. So you're Li Kuai? I heard you really liked teaming up with Tang Xin, and even claimed that thanks to you you were able to pass the Class 3 Year 2 clone? Want to lean on Tang Xin's shoulder to climb higher? Who gave you that shameless face? I was scolded until I was stunned. I didn't. I'm even better at fighting than Xie Tang. But explaining was useless. She had already decided to look at me with prejudiced eyes. The other players snickered, pointing at me. Sister Xiaodu likes strong people the most, and still wants Sister Xiaodu to protect her? This Li Kuai is really asking for humiliation. The weak vine always has the illusion that she can rely on the big tree to live. When danger comes later, she will definitely be the first to die. Everyone hates little flowers that depend on others. Looks like my side quest can't be completed. Hello, my dear too. A shaggy head popped out from the back seat of me. All the players on the bus were wearing violet uniforms, except for the girl sitting behind me. She was wearing a bright crimson JK uniform, her hair tied in 2 pigtails, her light brown eyes were as mischievous as a cat. On the small name tag on her chest was written Experimental High School Shannon. She looked very enthusiastic. I secretly encouraged myself, wanting to try to conquer this player. That. The two of us spoke at the same time. I stopped, smiled and made an invite gesture. I'm the president of the Tarot Club. The space between your brows is pitch black. You might encounter evil spirits. Shannon raised the tarot deck in her hand, winked mysteriously. Do you want to have your fortune told? The corner of Nguyen Hudu's mouth twitched, and he sneered, fool. She carried her LV bag, walked on her high heels clack clack to the empty seat at the back of the bus, avoiding us like bacteria. Seeing that, Shannon took the opportunity to sit down next to me, begging, tell me a fortune? Under her earnest gaze, I silently took out the yarrow and tortoise shell from the canvas bag. The girl was surprised. You know fortune-telling too? Of course, I am a Taoist priest. After telling her a fortune, I scratched my head in embarrassment. It seems I'm not very good at fortune-telling. The fortune-telling shows that within the next 3 days, you will deliver someone else's baby. This strange fortune-telling was so absurd that I didn't dare to see my master anymore. Deliver a baby? Shannon's eyes widened, a huge question mark printed on her forehead. The fog is too thick. With a loud cry, the bus left the clear sky and entered the thick fog, rushing along a blue river. Looking far away, 2 meters away, nothing could be seen. I was really worried that the driver would be careless and drive us into the river, and couldn't help but silently chant God bless several times. God bless indeed. In less than 5 minutes, the bus broke down. The students got off the bus one by one. The leader was a tall teenager named Chiu Yuan, with firm muscles and a healthy tan. He led us to grope our way through the thick fog. Not far away, a tall building stood tall in the fog, clouds and smoke swirling, covered in fog. It was a castle in the fog. A stained glass window on the 4th floor of the castle was slightly open. I vaguely saw a girl in a red dress standing by the window. In the dim darkness, she seemed to be looking at us too. For a moment, the fog cleared a little, and I saw her face clearly. It was an old, withered face, full of wrinkles. Our eyes met. Suddenly, I got goosebumps. But in the blink of an eye, the window was empty, as if the stare just now was just an illusion. Ding, congratulations on arriving at Sena Castle. Please choose your teammates. Each team is limited to 4 people. The teams enter the castle one by one. The team that gets the food ticket will advance to the next round of the game. There were many players surrounding Nguyen Hudu. They enthusiastically expressed their loyalty, showed their special abilities, hoping to be favored by the goddess, and become her teammates. After all, she was the only player in our top 100. After careful selection, the young lady, as expected, chose the 3 strongest players behind her. The players who were left behind hurriedly called their friends, afraid of being left alone. Because my role was a pitiful little white flower, I weakly wrung my handkerchief, lost in the fog. Is there anyone kind enough to take me with them? I'm so scared. In fact, I didn't care. It was more comfortable to kill enemies alone. The viewers who were familiar with me felt helpless. Continue pretending, wait until you enter the castle, the monsters will be the ones who are afraid of you. AI Shin, if you continue to act, I will give you an Oscar. That's right, you blew away the Imperial Concubine Hotel with a hurricane, the Phoenix breathed fire and burned down tens of thousands of demons, summoned the Divine Fox to solo with Da Dang Yen La, who wouldn't be afraid of angry thunder. Just when I thought I was going to be left behind, Xianing hugged me. Don't worry. I'll protect you. There's also me. Qveen followed, he grinned. I'm the captain, I should take care of the weak. I pretended to crumple the handkerchief, but I'm really clueless. The two of them clenched their fists, their faces like warriors going into battle. Since we've decided to team up with you, let's work together to survive. I was a little touched. All right, then let me protect you guys. The teams entered the castle one by one. The ancient building was full of cobwebs, dusty, and gave off a musty smell. The oak stairs were old and creaked as I walked up. Xianing was afraid of me, so she held my hand tightly. The bullets in her live stream room flooded my mind. Xiaoying is so kind, everyone is afraid of being held back by Li Kuai, only our Xiaoying is willing to help her. But as a fan, I also don't want Xiaoying to be implicated by this little flower. Their team is missing one person, fighting with monsters will be at a disadvantage. I curled my lips slightly. It's not a disadvantage. The blue-gray claws protruding from the wall couldn't catch us, instead they were caught in the animal trap. The wine in the cellar splashed everywhere, the monster bit more than a dozen times but only managed to cut the iron bar. The demon rushed out from the hallway, missed, fell down the stairs, and broke its leg. The announcement kept ringing in our ears, ding, experimental high school, 7 players died. 5 players died. 3 players died. The 3 of us walked all the way without encountering any obstacles. Xianon's live stream room was filled with bewildered comments. What the hell is wrong with these 3 people? They're still intact. What's wrong with those monsters? I'm more accurate at biting people than them. Is there a possibility that there's a great minister among the 3 of them? Xianing is a support player, Li Kuai keeps mumbling, looking very weak. If there's a great minister, it can only be Qiu Yuan. 15 minutes after entering the castle, the 3 of us easily obtained 3 dinner tickets on the 4th floor. As we walked through the 4th floor corridor, we discovered that every meter there was a portrait of a giant, framed in exquisite gilded bronze. Hanging on the wall were the castle's previous owners, the most notable being the 4th owner. He was called the Master Diderot, thin, bald, with squinted eyes, a hooked nose, elegant gestures, and a mysterious expression. Every time I looked at the portrait, I always felt like he was staring at me. I was stared at until my scalp went numb, goosebumps appeared. The system guided us to the tea room to rest and wait for the other players to have dinner together. The announcement kept ringing in our ears, 2 players died. 1 player died. After waiting for 3 hours, Nguyen Hudu walked in, holding her injured arm. In her team, only she and a guy with glasses survived. As soon as she entered the tea room, the young lady looked at us in surprise. You guys are still alive? The guy with glasses added in a daze, moreover, you came earlier than us? Moreover, no one died? Not even a single wound? Xianon put down the apple pie in her hand in confusion and shouted loudly around the 2 of them, oh my god, those monsters are clearly very stupid. How come you guys are so badly injured? Nguyen Hudu glared at her, thinking that she was mocking her. She leaned against the red leather sofa, closing her eyes to rest next to the fireplace. I handed her a pill, wanting to help her heal her injuries. Nguyen Hudu looked at me warily for a moment, then coldly snorted and pushed my hand away, refusing to accept it. The comments in her live stream room flooded my mind. Get lost, parasite. Want to rely on Sister Hudu? Get lost. I think Lai Kai is also kind. Why are you guys cursing so harshly? In the struggle for survival, the fittest will survive. Monsters are already difficult enough to deal with, and bringing along a burden, the consequences are unpredictable. You clinging vine, don't come near, don't come near, don't come near. The classmates got their dinner tickets one by one. In the end, the death toll stopped at 39. Experimental high school, a total of 11 people survived the first round. Night fell, the quiet castle seemed to come to life. In the luxurious classical banquet hall, the aroma of food wafted in. The duke in the portrait took off his hat to greet us, the ghostly maids placed fresh flowers with dew in the vase. The bearded butler in the tailcoat clapped his hands, signaling to bring the food. Each plate of food floated in the air, landing neatly on the dining table one by one, giving off an enticing aroma. We, representing experimental high school, had already sat down at the table. Ding, challengers of Jinglan High School, please come in. Along with the system's fake tone, a group of young men in green uniforms walked in. Ding, challengers of Eton School, please come in. More than 10 young men in yellow uniforms walked into the banquet hall, among them was an extremely handsome young man. The commenters recognized him before me. It's Tang Shen. Wow, Tang Shen is so handsome in a yellow uniform.
Ah, ah, ah.
Did Tang Shen just laugh?
Ah, ah.
I'm dying. There are clearly so many people like him, but he is forever the brightest star. You guys complimenting Xie Tang's beauty in Xiao Baihua's livestream room, isn't that a bit rude? Hey, it's nothing, Xiao Baihua doesn't know what's going on. Me. Not only did I know, I also saw the comments clearly. Please hold your saliva. As soon as I saw Xie Tang, Nguyen Hu Du's crystal black eyes were filled with infatuation, her fair face flushed. To some extent, I could understand her infatuation. Xie Tang's profile was exquisite and handsome, his height of 1m85 stood out in the crowd, his silver hair was like the stars in the night sky. His arrogant temperament, like a Western prince coming out of a comic book.
Ah, ah.
That handsome silver-haired boy is the legendary Tang Shen? Am I not dreaming? Xian'an's eyes turned into a heart shape, shaking my hand vigorously, almost shaking my soul away. Xie Tang caught my eyes in the crowd, his cold expression softened slightly. He smiled and waved at me. The crowd was boiling, looking at Q Veen beside me. Qiu Yuan was excited, Tang Shen is waving at me. He jumped and replied.
Ah, ah.
Tang Shen, I love you. Me, you're tall enough, you don't need to jump. I always knew Xie Tang was famous, but I didn't expect him to be this famous. In the banquet hall, there were players from 3 high schools, a total of 60 people. Just when I thought I was about to eat, the crystal chandelier in the hall suddenly went out. Outside the castle, it was pouring rain, and a few thunderclaps echoed throughout the sky. The butler lit a few red candles, and the fire in the fireplace flickered. Under the flickering firelight, the butler bowed elegantly, presiding over the big picture in a strange and creepy tone. Everyone, on such a wonderful night, we are reunited here, it is worth celebrating. I sincerely invite each school to send a representative to tell a ghost story to join in the fun. Any team that doesn't tell it will be punished. But please remember, don't talk nonsense late at night, in the rain and wind, gathered around the fireplace. Telling ghost stories again? I held the fork tightly, feeling vaguely uneasy. So, I uneasily cut a piece of German-style grilled sausage, uneasily devouring it. The representative of Jinglan High School was a girl wearing elegant gold-rimmed glasses. She stood up first. My name is Shu Yuran. I want to tell a story about the monster in the mirror. Once upon a time, there was a young lady who valued beauty as much as her life. In her story, the young lady loved looking in the mirror, but was eventually replaced by the monster in the mirror. The monster in the mirror impersonated the young lady and lived a happy life as she wished. As for the young lady, she was imprisoned in the mirror forever. Halfway through the story, Nguyen Hu Du frowned and muttered, "What bad luck." After meeting Ta Duong, she hurriedly put on makeup, and was now using a powder puff to carefully cover the pimple on her left cheek. After listening to Shu Yurin's story, she angrily stuffed the hand mirror into her pocket. The representative of Eton was a tall and skinny guy. He rubbed his hands excitedly, his eyes shining. "My name is Du Li. Next, please witness the unique and wonderful story I improvised. Once upon a time, there was a mischievous shape-shifting stone, named Jia Baoyu. In his story, Jia Baoyu defeated the vampires, ruled the Dark Kingdom, married Snow White, and gave birth to Zhu Beiji." After hearing this story that was even more fantastic than fantastic, everyone present was stunned. Ruan Xiaoyu's head was full of black lines. "What the hell are you telling?" Even I dropped my plate, stunned on the spot. When it was our school's turn, Zhou Yuan was the representative to tell a story that was very appropriate to the situation. A group of students went to explore an ancient castle in the suburbs. At night they sat around the fireplace, telling ghost stories. What story did they tell? They told a story about a group of students who went to explore an ancient castle in the suburbs. At night they sat around the fireplace, telling ghost stories. What story did they tell? Repeated endlessly. He repeated it over and over, when he repeated it for the nth time. The candles in the dining room suddenly went out. A strange clack 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 sound rang out all around, like ocean waves crashing onto the sand, the sound from far to near, violently crashing.
Ah!
A scream rang out. In the darkness came the sound of tearing flesh and chewing. "Li Kuai, where are you? I'll protect you." At this time, Xianon was still worried about me. But her call seemed to be blocked by a layer of fog, growing more and more distant. I raised my hand and chanted, "Lie quiet, fire lantern." A giant red lantern floated in the air, illuminating the endless darkness. The moment the light pierced the darkness, all the people and monsters disappeared. I was left standing alone in the vast hall. The moonlight outside the castle was quiet and beautiful, silvering the ground. The fire in the fireplace was flickering, the dishes on the table were sumptuous and exquisite. Everything was extremely relaxing, warm, extremely comfortable and pleasant. The comments trembled. Everything just now couldn't be an illusion, right? There were no players or monsters, it was all Xiao Baihua's imagination. Ah, stop talking, it's so scary. You two above, have you read too many novels about multiple personalities? Are you trying to say that the players just now were all split personalities created by Bai Lianhua? Xianon is a kind personality, Nguyen Hu Du is an arrogant personality, Q Veen is a tolerant personality, Du Lai is a brainless personality. Have you guys watched too much of the movie Identity? I rubbed my temples, the corners of my mouth curled up into a smile. It was an illusion. But, the excitement just now wasn't, the silence right now was an illusion. My fingertips condensed spiritual energy, my eyes flashed a golden light that penetrated the fog. Swoosh! The peaceful scene before my eyes suddenly shattered, a mouthful of blood was opening wide and charging towards me. Li Ju, Karma Fire Parting Body. The giant talisman emitting red light blocked in front of me, suddenly wrapping around the demon, flames bursting out. Along with a miserable scream, the demon turned into ashes. Ding! Congratulations to player Li Kuai for defeating Eye-Covered Demon. Since you haven't completed the side quest, which means you haven't received the love of all the players, Eye-Covered Demon is the punishment for your failure in the quest. In the next game, you still have to play the role of the pitiful and weak White Lotus. I wish you, I gloomily said, shut up. System, you dare to yell at me? Sena Castle has a total of 5 floors, the banquet hall is on the first floor. After breaking through the fog, I saw corpses everywhere. Some of them were students, some of them were monsters. Occasionally, one or two screams could be heard from afar. The system didn't give any clues. I decided to go find Xianing first. After all, in that critical moment just now, she was still thinking about protecting me. I pretended to be sad and rubbed my temples. I don't know where Xiaoying is, I'm so worried. The desert immediately became noisy. Oh, I want to ship the AI-ing couple for a second. Xiaoying was on the 3rd floor just now. I just came back from her live stream room. Okay, I'm about to go to the 3rd floor. As soon as I ran to the 2nd floor, I heard a series of fierce gunshots. The desert was noisy. Everyone, hurry to Nguyen Hu Du's live stream room. She's surrounded by ghosts in the piano room on the 2nd floor, hanging by a thread. If you don't go, you'll be psychologically traumatized. It's still safer to stay with AI Shindot. Light a stick of incense for Miss Nguyen. To be able to live this long, she's quite formidable. Is Nguyen Hu Du about to die? I changed direction and ran towards the piano room at the end of the hallway. Where did Bok Lin Hoa go? Bai Lin Hoa must have heard the gunshots. Sigh. My daughter is good in everything, I'm just too curious. Baby, don't go. It's dangerous over there. When I arrived, Nguyen Hu Du had just fired the last bullet from her submachine gun. She was standing behind the piano, her face covered in green saliva, as if a monster had just swallowed it and spat it out. Her stomach was bleeding, her eyes filled with fear and despair. The monsters surrounded her from all sides. They had no bodies, no facial features, just large mouths floating in the air, full of fangs, drooling. Extremely disgusting. The system turned on a holographic screen. Monster name: Evil Speech Monster. Characteristics: when hungry, opens its mouth to eat people, when full, opens its mouth to curse people. Nguyen Hu Du glanced at me, she fiercely scolded, hurry up and get lost. Get lost. I knew that she pushed me away at this moment because she was afraid that I would be implicated. Zhenju, Thunder Rage. I raised my hand and formed a seal. Boom, the already erratic weather outside the window became my right-hand man. Thunder rumbled down like fire. In the blink of an eye, all the evil words monsters in the room were turned into charcoal. Nguyen Hu Du's eyes widened and her mouth opened wide. Just as she was about to faint, I supported her and gave her a pill. The bleeding wound immediately dried up, and the damaged flesh quickly healed. The bullets in her live stream room also flooded my head. Oh my God! I'm not dreaming, am I? The savior is Li Kuei. Isn't she a weak and useless orchid? With this fighting power, you guys call her an orchid?
Ah. Ah.
I really want to see her previous live stream. I'm starting to believe that the 3rd grade 2nd grade instance is really led by her. Agree with the person above. Can the system open the replay permission? I want to watch 3rd grade 2nd grade. With Li Kuei's lightning-fast methods, there's no need to rely on Tangshin. The two of them are clearly evenly matched. Hoo, kneeling to benefactor without holding back. I will kneel down for the great God immediately. Yes. What really surprised me was not how strong she was, but that she was willing to save our young lady in a moment of danger. I'm going to cry to death. Sorry, I called her a freeloader, now I'll slap myself 10 times. Black turning powder. I want to introduce Li Kuei to the whole world. The back was filled with kneel down to benefactor without holding grudges. I sighed in my heart. The trend of public opinion on the internet really made people speechless. Praise or criticism, often only in the blink of an eye. You can actually draw lightning? Nguyen Hu Du was surprised, as if she had seen a ghost. I smiled and said, it's just a small skill, not worth mentioning. After a while, she came back to her senses. The look of surprise was replaced by arrogance. Huh, she asked, burying her face in my chest, what's your bank account number? I looked confused. The young lady frowned, transfer the money to you. My life is worth a lot. After Nguyen Hu Du was rescued, she decided to find a bedroom to take a bath. I gave her a sound transmission talisman so that she could contact me at any time, and gave her 3 lightning talismans for self-defense. After that, I continued to search for Xianan alone. Following the instructions of the bullet, I went to the 3rd floor. The hallway was very quiet, only my footsteps could be heard. I pushed open each door, but there was no sign of the ponytailed girl inside. When I pushed open the 4th door, I surprisingly found Qveen hiding under the bed. It's you! I was a little happy. After the banquet hall fell into darkness, the players were defeated by the monsters that rushed in. I was blinded by the devil, and lost contact with everyone. Qveen cowered under the dark bed and refused to come out. He was both scared and embarrassed, complaining, "Damn it, I've been targeted by a vampire, he wants to marry me." I was stunned, huh? With sobs, the young man shamefully recounted what he had experienced after the breakup. It turned out that after he escaped from the banquet hall, he was chased by 2 evil-speaking monsters and was saved by a blonde vampire on the way. The vampire liked men and coveted Qiu Yuan's beautiful wheat-colored skin. He insisted on wearing a wedding dress to take him home. Qiu Yuan desperately ran away from the vampire, chose a dark bedroom and hid under the bed, refusing to come out again. I'm straight. Besides, even if I were gay, my first choice would still be Tang Xin. The boy was agitated. My head was a little confused. So are you running away from your engagement now? Qiu Yuan nodded. I gently advised him, come out, runaway bride. I'll protect you. No. He cried out, cowering under the bed, I'd rather let the bedboard protect me. The framework didn't work. I gave him a sound transmission talisman and 3 fire talismans. I found Xiaoying at the end of the 3rd floor. When we met again, the scene before my eyes made my mouth drop open. She was sweating profusely while delivering a beautiful woman with black hair and snow-white skin, wearing a gorgeous gown. Hang in there. Xianing tightly held the hot towel, tears in her eyes as she wiped the sweat off the pregnant woman. Hang in there. You are Snow White, you can even fight your evil stepmother, you will definitely be able to give birth smoothly. A handsome young man wearing a jade crown with diamonds and a silk scarf embroidered with 2 dragons fighting for a pearl was anxiously pacing back and forth, not forgetting to threaten as he walked. His 2 hands turned into something jet black like oil paint, waving around Xiaoying, muttering threats. If Sister Tuetni dies in labor, you will definitely be buried with her tonight. If you want to live, you absolutely cannot. I only hope that on your way to the afterlife, you will keep my sister company. How pitiful, the yellow mound of earth sends off white bones. How sad, the temples are stained with frost. Xianan broke out in a cold sweat when she heard, I know, 2nd Master Bao. I'm taking good care of him. Standing at the door, I took 2 steps back. What the hell is going on? The absurdity of this world makes people gasp. The scene before their eyes, within the absurdity, exudes a great sense of humor, so funny that it makes people laugh. The barrage of discussions is lively. Jia Baoyu loves Snow White? This world is crazier than I imagined. Hey! So what, Lin Mui Mui on Bilibili is in love with Voldemort. On the bus, Bai Lianhua did fortune-telling for Xiaoying. The result of the fortune-telling was that she had to be a midwife, right? Oh my god! At that time, I was laughing at Aishan's fortune-telling skills. It turns out that the clown is me. Aishan is truly a fortune-telling master. Please tell my fortune. Xiao Ying. I called out softly. Xianon saw me, and was so excited that she cried like rain, Kai Ai. Come help me deliver the baby. Quickly. Quickly. This touched my blind spot. How do I know how to do this? But this ancient castle is really strange. Vampires, Jia Baoyu, Snow White. Aren't these the characters in Du Li's story? Could it be that this castle can make what we say come true? I tried to probe. Snow White gave birth smoothly, mother and child were safe. As if the spell had just been chanted, the cry of a newborn baby rang out, and Zhu Beiji was born with a poof. Jia Baoyu was so happy that he cried, and gave Chunying a pair of glass slippers as a thank you gift for successfully delivering the baby. Chunying and I congratulated him for a while, then we both held hands and ran away in a daze. I speculate, there is a speech spirit in this castle. Moreover, speech spirit is so powerful that not only will his words come true, but even the words of the people in the castle will randomly come true. The power is too strong, extremely terrifying. I decided to dig out the secret of the castle, and break this trap. A new viewer who entered the live stream room sent a comment, I'm dying of laughter, it seems like Duan Muqing really likes to play with Li Kuei on the same team. He followed me again, he's on the 4th floor, playing dice with the Red Witch. What did the person above say? Duan Muqing also came? Which school is Duan Muqing a challenger from? Why didn't I see him earlier? I just came from his live stream room, he's not a student of any school, he's Nguyen Hu Du's makeup mirror. Strange. This kid always surprises people. Me. Duan Muqing is a cool and cold elementary school student, a natural-born ability user, good at illusion, often transforming into hats, fans, mirrors, etc., following high-level players into the game, then staying still, just lying low until he wins, happily sharing the money. Moreover, his initial system skill is Cam Lai Kai Van. His luck is so good that it makes even me jealous. Unlike me, whose initial skill is Dan Mac Chiu Chiu, I have to read the comments of viewers scolding me every day. I took Shannon to the 4th floor, intending to meet up with Duan Muqing first. A loud thunderclap resounded through the air. The 3rd floor staircase had half of its window broken, and wind and rain poured in, wetting the crimson carpet. A tall, thin girl stood coldly in front of the window. Nguyen Hu Du. I asked suspiciously, are you done bathing? You've been done bathing for a long time, she turned her head, complaining coldly, so slow, I've been waiting for you for a while. The 3 of us went up to the 4th floor together. The lights on the 4th floor flickered on and off, making a sizzling sound, as if there was an electrical short circuit. On the walls of the corridor hung portraits of the castle's previous owners. Duke Joseph was the first owner of Sena Castle, with curly brown hair, brown eyes, a goatee, and a resolute expression. Seeing us pass by, he politely took off his hat and greeted us. Good evening, Mr. Joseph. I stopped, communicating with him in English, trying to get some information. There are so many ghosts trapped in the castle. Why are people gathering here and refusing to leave? Duke Joseph raised his eyebrows. Little girl, you have to ask Jenny about this. Jenny? Who is Jenny? Jenny is a beautiful girl, but a little less than you. He winked at me. Answering without answering. I smiled helplessly. Okay, I will ask Miss Jenny later. This castle will randomly make people's words come true, even faster than gods fulfill the prayers of believers. May I ask, is there a spirit of speech residing here? The Duke poked his head out of the painting and moved closer to me. Tell me more clearly. I took 2 steps back and briefly described what I had just witnessed. The Duke was initially very excited, then he seemed to understand. Oh, you're asking about this. I was about to listen attentively. Unexpectedly, he said, "You have to ask Jenny about this." Me? May I ask where I should go to find Miss Jenny? I asked patiently. Duke Joseph spread his hands. How would I know? Just as I was wondering what to do, I suddenly heard a soft voice calling from behind, "Little girl, is that you?" I didn't expect to meet Mr. Song Chung in here. He was a teammate I met in the Class 3, Year 2 dungeon, a nearly 100-year-old hero. What was even more unexpected was that he was in a painting. This painting originally depicted Diderot. Now that Mr. Song was in the painting, where did Diderot go? Mr. Song's initial skill in the game was by go mose. He could erase traces of time and freely change his age. Mr. Song transformed into a teenager and entered this dungeon as a challenger from Jinglan School. When the banquet hall was attacked, he was chased by the evil word monster, running to the 4th floor, running and running. For some reason, he was sucked into the painting and couldn't get out. I just heard your conversation with Duke Joseph. Mr. Song removed his disguise and returned to the form of a 100-year-old man. He kept avoiding you. Joseph hates English speakers, his native tongue is German. Take me over there, let me get information out of him. The three of us girls carried the giant portrait down and placed it on the windowsill opposite Joseph. The two portraits faced each other. The two old men in the painting, whose combined age must have been several hundred, began to converse in hushed German. It had not been 15 minutes. Mr. Song pointed to me. Jenny was a girl with a black crow's mouth who lived many years ago. Because the strange things she said all came true, the people of Vienna hated her very much, saying she was cursed, the daughter of the devil. Her family, out of fear, drove her out of the house one cold winter. Before she froze to death, she was taken in by the then owner of this castle. The then owner of this castle? Mr. Song continued, it was the infamous Master Diderot. After that, Jenny told the people of Vienna that a terrible disaster would happen in Europe. The plague would take the lives of thousands of people. Everyone was terrified after hearing it, thinking that only by killing her could the disaster be resolved. I gradually understood. Many years ago, the plague broke out in Europe, later known as the Black Death. Countless people died, and there were cries everywhere. It turned out that Jenny was the word spirit. The word spirit was powerful. Not only would her own prophecies come true, but she would even influence the people around her, turning them into black-mouthed crows. Jia Baoyu and Snow White were the word spirits we created with her power. It seemed that in this castle, we couldn't talk nonsense. Mr. Song continued, after that, everyone burned Jenny alive. Joseph said that Jenny hated this world. She always wandered around the castle, imprisoning everyone who came here, not allowing them to leave. This castle is a haunted house. Following Mr. Song's instructions, I decided to go to the attic to investigate. That was Jenny's bedroom when she was alive. Maybe there could be clues found, freeing Jenny, and also freeing everyone. We walked to the corner of the 4th floor, about to go up to the 5th floor. A sharp claw stabbed towards me, easily controlled by me. Turning around, I met Nguyen Hu Du's opaque yellow eyes and sinister smile. Finally couldn't hold it in anymore and made a move? I asked. She was a little surprised. When did you find out? That's right, I calmly pointed at her cheek. Nguyen Hu Du has a pimple on her left cheek. After meeting Ta Duong, she tried to cover it up with makeup, but your pimple is on your right cheek. Symmetry is a fate you can't escape, right? Miss Mirror Demon. Having her identity exposed by me, she let out a shrill scream, turning into a puff of green smoke. Actually, she wasn't really a mirror demon. After all, she was just a soul word. Oh my, I really wanted to drag the 3 ghost story-telling representative students out and beat them up. I calmed down Xianon, who was screaming continuously, found the Rayon Nguyen Hu Du, the young lady of Nguyen Tea Corporation, who was locked in the mirror in the dressing room on the 4th floor. She knocked on the mirror, "Let me out. I'll give you 5 million. I spread my hands, "That's a lot, but unfortunately I can't do it." The young lady clasped her hands, 3 parts proud, 3 parts ashamed, 4 parts pitiful, and begged, then wherever you go, you have to bring me with you. I'm scared to be alone here." "This. Want me to carry a makeup mirror around the castle? It's too heavy." In the end, I left Shannon with her. The attic was Yan Ling's lair. It could be potentially dangerous. Shannon staying here with Nguyen Hu Du would be safer. Before leaving, I gave Shannon a sound transmission talisman, 3 thunder talismans, and 3 fire talismans. But just as I was about to set off for the attic, the floor beneath my feet suddenly collapsed. My whole body fell down. Li Ku Ai. Their screams grew further and further away, the surrounding reinforced concrete shattered and then reassembled. I fell into endless darkness, I fell into a mountain of gold. On the left and right, 2 pairs of eyes were looking at me in amazement. On one side was the Red Witch drinking coffee from a skull, and on the other side was Duan Muqing shaking dice. "Sister Kai Ai." Duan Muqing was both happy and scared, pointing at the mountain of gold and excitedly saying, "Look. This is the country I won tonight." The witch was wearing a red cloak, a red pointed hat, and smoky eye makeup and smiling. "You've only won 1 game and you're already so smug? If you're good, then keep playing. Haven't you had enough games?" Duan Muqing had Jin Li Chiyun, and still wanted to play dice with him? I felt a little sorry for the Red Witch. Proud soldiers will surely fail, knowing enough is enough, follow me. I wanted to advise Duan Muqing to go with me to the attic. Unexpectedly, the elementary school student waved his hand and confidently said, "Don't worry about me, the Red Witch is really stupid." The Red Witch was so angry that her nose almost exploded. The 2 players were so engrossed in gambling that they insisted on gambling until morning. But would it be possible for it to be morning? It had been 18 hours since we entered the castle, and the storm had not stopped, and the night had been endless. Helpless, I gave the boy a sound transmission talisman and 5 thunder talismans. Stepping on the pattering rain, I walked alone to the attic. In the attic, dust covered everything, the smell of mold rushed into the nose. The dirty window had a hole broken, and the wind and rain rushed in. Xie Tang's silver hair fluttered in the wind, like a galaxy in the dark night. The dim light from the ceiling shone down. The handsome young man stood in the dim light, slightly squinting, his long, white fingers flipping through the yellowed, moldy pages. His eyes were focused, reading seriously. Along with the sound of flipping the pages, his feather-like eyelashes trembled slightly, exuding an unusually gentle and quiet look. On the ground, leaning against the wall, was a young man wearing glasses. I remember him as Nguyen Hu Du's companion. Hearing the noise at the door, Xie Tang turned his head slightly. Seeing me, the cold eyes of the young man flashed with a hint of warmth. "You came here too?" He looked at me with clear eyes. On his white face there were a few tiny raindrops. "Come here." I couldn't help but walk forward, against the wind. I pointed at the bespectacled boy on the ground. "What's wrong with him?" "I knocked him out," Xie Tang said calmly. "He woke up too noisy." I fell silent. My eyes fell on the paper he was reading. More than 10 square sheets of paper, all covered in mold. Written in a language I didn't understand, the strong and beautiful handwriting penetrated every grain of the paper. Xie Tang approached me, studying it with me. He looked at it very attentively, but I didn't recognize a single word. Finally, I couldn't help but ask, "What word is this?" "German." Xie Tang said calmly. "You don't understand?" I shook my head. The young man was surprised. "Then what were you looking at just now?" I was speechless. I was watching you read." Xie Tang paused for 2 seconds, then suddenly burst out laughing. Was he being laughed at? Before I could feel embarrassed, I saw him flip back to the first page and read. Jenny, you always put too much wood in the fireplace, the fire is too big. Even in winter, I get prickly heat. In the future, put less. Breakfast is delicious, but I hate potatoes, don't make it anymore. Oh, add some black pepper to the grilled fish, these spices from Malabar are more wonderful than magic. The Danube is beautiful, but also very deep. I can't swim, I play by the river all day, be careful not to drown. Sorry, I scared you today. But I still want to say, I'm not as scary as I look. They say that when I blink evil thoughts arise, and that beckoning your fingers is a bad omen. Do you think so too? Don't call me Master Diderot anymore, don't you think it's too long-winded? Duke Joseph, Count Leicester, Lady Catherine, oh my, it sounds so silly and boring. Just call me Diderot. P.S. Little Diderot is fine too. I'm 30 years old this year, I just look a little older than my age. I listened to Xie Tang read each page, thinking to myself, paper was only introduced to Europe in the 12th century, it must have been very expensive back then, right? And it was used to write these trivial things, what a luxury. Black pepper was also very expensive back then, the owner of the castle was indeed a rich man. It wasn't hard to tell that these lines were written by Master Diderot to Jenny, the content was all gossip. Xie Tang continued reading. Your singing voice is really good. I know fortune-telling, makeup, and potion-making, but I don't know how to sing. As you can see, I'm a mute, a mysterious, strange, and scary mute. I once dreamed that I spoke, but it made a clucking sound, like a mouse gnawing on a bedboard. Dancing? I'm not very good at it. If you're willing to teach me, I'd love to learn. Actually, compared to Golden Heart and Sleeping Vienna, I like to dance Long Waiting more, the melody is gentle, and it suits my mysterious witch image. Let's practice this next time. There are too many fools in the world, changing yourself for them will only make you become like them. P.S. They here don't include me. Don't be afraid, your fear will make them strong. In fact, I feel like they're more afraid of you. Don't cry. Don't you think Cursed Maiden sounds cooler than Silly Jenny? That's right, there will be a plague outbreak. I've done fortune-telling 10 times, and it's always come up with this result. But don't be afraid, I'll make a vaccine. You and I will definitely be immune. No, don't tell everyone. Those idiots in Vienna, they won't believe that the plague will happen, they'll think that you brought it. Idiot, the plague will definitely happen. You can't change it, no matter how powerful the crow's mouth is, it can't fight against fate. This is the calamity of the times, understand? No. Don't tell everyone. Even if they take precautions in advance, what's the big deal if they save a few hundred, a few thousand lives? In their eyes, you're the daughter of the devil, and I'm a notorious witch. You're only harming yourself if you say it. I promise you, if I develop a vaccine, I'll definitely save them. It's almost done, it's almost done. Ignorance and prejudice entwined together is the greatest evil in this world. Malice leads to violence, so-called justice, is nothing more than a fever. Ignore them, what can you do? Don't be afraid. Don't listen. Don't look out the window. Those people are like rats, ignorant, selfish, gathering in a swarm, so disgusting. Trust me, I won't let you burn to death. Are you awake? Sorry. Look in the mirror, you might be startled. I think you're crying, right? Don't cry, wait for me to come back. I'll make a vaccine, you'll be accepted by the people, you'll be blessed. Everything will be fine. When the time comes, are you willing to wear a rose crown, a wedding dress and glass shoes, and dance with me to long wait again? Wait for me. After Xie Tang finished reading, neither of us said anything more, just silently pondering. These fragmented words helped us sketch out the scene that year. The people of Vienna wanted to burn Jenny alive. Diderot promised to protect her. I shared with Xie Tang the information that Mr. Song had found out. Duke Joseph said that Jenny was eventually burned to death. If Jenny was burned to death, then where did Diderot go? I couldn't help but wonder. Xie Tang, he said he would save Jenny. Me, he also told Jenny to wait for him. Both of us fell into thought again. After a long while, Xie Tang spoke. I have a guess. I raised my head and looked into his eyes. Me too, but I need to verify. Suddenly, the sound transmission talisman flashed and flickered. Mr. Song's deep voice rang out. Just now, a ghost passed by me. Singing and dancing, and even asking me why Diderot hadn't come back yet. How scary! Next, Qiu Yuan's faltering voice rang out from the sound transmission talisman. I saw it too. But, I saw Master Diderot. He trembled, seemingly quite frightened, making us both confused and worried. Du Li's voice suddenly rang out. Qiu Yuan. Your expression is even worse than mine. Qiu Yuan and I are together, let me speak. Just now was so creepy. I don't know if it was a man pretending to be a woman or a woman pretending to be a man, but I feel like it was a man pretending to be a woman. Unexpected, right? There's also a crossdresser among the demons. Everyone. Nguyen Hu Du said in frustration, shut up. You still dare to criticize Q Veen's ability to express himself? A helpless female voice rang out, all right, let me say it. Everyone, how many of you are together? The girl said clearly, I'm Thursday Dunin from Kenlam Middle School. I met Q Veen and Du Lai hiding under the bed when I escaped. We're currently in the 8th room on the right on the 3rd floor, the room number is. The three of us are hiding under the bed. Just now, Master Diderot wandered over to us. He muttered something. Thursday Dunin tried to imitate Diderot's tone, saying in a sad tone, why haven't you come back yet? Xianon trembled as she heard, so scary. Nguyen Hu Du asked, then what? Thursday Dunin continued, then, cough, I'll tell you guys, don't be afraid. Then, he suddenly took off his coat, tore off his mask, transformed into an old lady in a red dress, barefoot, and glided out of the room. Mr. Tong happily said, that's right, it was her. She glided out from where you guys were, came to me, and even talked to me. Don Mok Ton. You guys even changed the camera angle. Are you planning to film a TV series here? I looked at Ta Duong. Ta Duong also looked at me. He said, it seems that now there's only one thing to confirm. I nodded, the birth and death years of the great master Diderot. We came to the portrait of Diderot. Now hanging in the painting was Mr. Song. Under the flickering light in the hallway, we could clearly see the small words below the painting, Diderot, 1713 to 1784. Diderot died in 1784, at the age of 71. That year, the bubonic plague broke out in Europe, which was also the peak of the witch hunt movement, and many witches were burned alive. The Black Death claimed the lives of 25 million people, and passers-by could suddenly die on the streets. Some people died at home for many days, until their corpses gave off a foul smell before being discovered by others. People painted the letter P outside the houses of infected people, to remind others that someone in this house was infected with the plague. And the letter P, like the plague itself, spread to every house. Cities in Europe collapsed one after another under the countless P.S. and the countless deaths behind it. I asked the Duke Joseph hanging on the wall in English, Diderot died in the year the plague first broke out. Is that right? The Duke immediately denied. No, 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 the great Master Diderot died in 91 years old. He was a scary guy who lived very long. Xie Tang said calmly. Really? I was also suspicious. If he himself died in, why is the year of death recorded on the portrait as? Feeling suspicious, Joseph suddenly blushed. He crossed his arms and glared. Because you are friends of Elder Song, I will tell the truth. Diderot has always been an eccentric person, clearly alive and well. He even painted his own portrait after death, and even set the date of his death anniversary. Not only that. After finishing the portrait, he cried in front of his own portrait for several days. Crying in front of his own portrait, that is truly unheard of. People all say he has a strange personality, is a sinister witch. That is so true. I continued to ask, in a year, Jenny was burned to death, right? The Duke affirmed, that is right. That year the plague broke out, the people were all afraid, thinking that only by burning Jenny to death would they escape the bad luck. Xie Tang continued to ask, when did Jenny's ghost appear? Hearing this question, the Duke was clearly stunned. He opened his mouth, recalling for a moment. It's strange, after Diderot died, Jenny's ghost appeared. Wandering around every night, her face full of wrinkles, so old, so ugly. If it weren't for her dancing being exactly the same as when she was young, I really wouldn't dare to recognize her. Xie Tang nodded slightly. That's right. I nodded in agreement. Yes, that's right. After my speculation was confirmed, I couldn't help but tremble silently because of the truth behind it. It was the secret tenderness from 100 years ago, quietly buried by time. I took the sound transmission talisman, and together with Xie Tang announced the truth that had been buried underground for so long. Song Chang'an in the painting, Nguyen Hudu in the mirror, Xianon in the dressing room, Don Mok Ton beside the Golden Mountain, Thursday Dunin, Qveen and Du Lai hiding under the bed. My teammates were listening in every corner of the castle. In our story, the past from 100 years ago, like old films, rolled up images. We seem to see them, recreated in the dust of history, frowning, smiling, so vivid. Diderot the Great is a terrible and notorious sorcerer in Vienna. He is good at fortune-telling, disguise, and making medicine. He is very powerful, but unfortunately he is mute. He can only communicate with others through paper. Jenny is a beautiful Viennese girl, loves the blue Danube River, but unfortunately can't swim. Her singing voice is very beautiful, her dancing is very charming. Even more extraordinary, she is a Ling Ling who possesses the power of prophecy, often saying bad things. Because of her crow's mouth, the people of Vienna say she is a cursed girl, the daughter of the devil. The poor girl was chased out of her house by her relatives in a cold winter, shivering, lonely and homeless, probably freezing to death outside. The infamous Diderot the Great brought her back to the castle and sheltered her. Jenny became the only person who dared to approach Diderot. And Diderot was also the only one willing to accept Jenny. Although both were hated and feared by the people of Vienna, they got along very well. Jenny also taught Diderot to dance. Diderot discovered during his divination that the plague was about to sweep the European continent. He had done it a total of times, each time leading to the same outcome. Jenny wanted to use the power of Ling Ling to fight the plague, but Diderot rejected it. The Black Crow's mouth could not defeat the misfortune of the times. Jenny advocated for telling the plague prophecy to the people of Vienna, so that they could prepare in advance. Diderot disagreed. He understood human nature very well, and had foreseen it very clearly. People would think that the plague was brought by Jenny's Black Crow's mouth. Then it would be over. Telling the people, preparing in advance, would indeed result in a few hundred more survivors. If lucky, a few thousand more people might survive. But whether it was 100 or 1,000, it was not worth Jenny putting herself in danger. Master Diderot thought so. However, the foolish girl Jenny had her own choice. As expected, the people of Vienna were terrified. They came like a tidal wave, surrounded the castle, built a high platform, piled up firewood, lit torches, and wanted to burn Jenny to death. Burn the cursed girl and the bad luck she brought, then they would be safe, and this city would be at peace. The foolish girl Jenny was the only light of the infamous Master Diderot in this cold world. He could not let this only light go out. But he could not go against the whole of Vienna either. So on the day of the cremation, Master Diderot used some tricks, disguised himself as Jenny, and was escorted to the stake by the crazy people. Yes, that tall, bald man was a genius among witches, good at disguise. Disguising himself as the person he loved was too easy for him. The mysterious witch that people said was cunning and sinister. The terrifying witch whose blinking brings evil thoughts, whose beckoning brings bad omens. For the only warmth in this cold world, he resolutely rushed into the fire. And, never to return. Ignoring his mysterious appearance, not discussing his terrifying talent, not judging his unapproachable personality, he is just a flesh and blood person who hates potatoes, likes grilled fish with black pepper, and likes to dance. He will occasionally mock the stupidity of others, and never mind his own bad reputation. In his heart, being flattered by a fool is even more disgusting and embarrassing, right? If he did not die, could he have invented a vaccine and saved everyone? As for Jenny, living in the castle under the identity of Diderot. After all, in everyone's hearts, that cursed girl was completely burned to death. She framed Diderot's portrait, hung it on the 4th floor, stacked with the previous owners. Offering to the beloved. Offering to the year. That year, the real Grandmaster Diderot and Jenny in everyone's eyes died together. Even though she hung the portrait after her death, she still did not give up hope. Didn't she say she would come back? Didn't she say they would dance together after she came back? She waited alone in the castle until death came, but still could not wait for him to come back. Waited until the real Jenny and Diderot died together in everyone's eyes. Still could not wait for him to come back. The living Jenny has waited for many years. The dead Jenny's ghost continues to wait. Waiting endlessly for many years, just to have one more dance with you. But why haven't you come back yet? After listening to the story, everyone was speechless. Fog, rainstorms, strange phenomena. Jenny didn't want to leave, she was always waiting. She locked up those who came to the castle, leaving us to wait with her. Only when she rested in peace, could we escape from here. Xianing sobbed, how could she rest in peace? I asked back, what is she waiting for? After a brief moment of thought, almost simultaneously, everyone said in unison, dance with him. I added, that's right. Wearing a wedding dress and glass slippers, wearing a rose crown, dancing long waiting with Diderot. Only when we fulfill the promise that Master Diderot made to her, will Jenny leave. Glass slippers. Xianing said excitedly, I helped Snow White give birth, Jiabaoyu gave me a pair of glass slippers as a thank you gift. Nguyen Hu Du continued, what a coincidence, maybe I can get the rose crown. She spoke very quickly, her voice high-pitched, no longer as cold and arrogant as before. I've been stuck in the mirror for a long time, always feeling something strange. The world in the mirror and the outside world are symmetrical, but I always feel that the two worlds are not very harmonious. Only later did I discover that there was a problem with the clothes hanger. In the real world, the clothes hangers are all medieval ceremonial clothes. And on the clothes hanger in the mirror world, in addition to the ceremonial clothes, there is also a rose crown. Everyone, wow. Don't mock Ton, is this a haunted version of the game, Find the Difference? The rose crown was hidden in the mirror world, symmetrical to reality. If it weren't for Nguyen Hu Du being pulled into the mirror by accident, if it weren't for her sharp eyes, even if we turned the entire castle upside down, we wouldn't have found the crown. I smiled, then I'll leave the crown to you. Then, Q Veen's weak voice rang out. The vampire count has prepared a wedding dress to marry me. How about I sacrifice a little and go trick him into getting the wedding dress? Q Veen, who had been hiding under the bed for 5 hours, finally came out. Everyone said without hesitation, then you sacrifice a little. As for Du Lai, he was chosen by Ta Duong to play the role of Diderot. Du Lai was tall and thin, looking like Diderot like 2 peas. Thursday Dunin happily said, I'm the director of the cosplay club, I'll help you with your makeup. Then what about the dance music? Who will play Long Waiting? I asked. Ta Duong turned to ask the Duke in German. The Duke laughed loudly. You guys also know this old-fashioned song? I don't, but Ekaterina is very good at it. Xie Tang asked, who is that? A gentle light appeared on the Duke's face. My daughter, the second master of this castle. Duan Muqing's cheerful voice rang out. Ekaterina is the red witch who plays dice with you. I will take care of the dance music. The banquet hall was dimly lit. After settling the comatose bespectacled man, Xianing and I carried a pile of medieval ceremonial clothes, carried glass slippers, and tiptoed here like kittens. The tinkling of a piano occasionally rang out in the room, as the Red Witch was tuning the piano. While tuning, she exclaimed that the piano was much easier to use than the harpsichords of her time. Duan Muqing stood dejectedly to the side. In order to convince the Red Witch to play a piece of music, the boy had spent all the gold coins he had brought with him. Qiu Yuan struggled to take off his tight wedding dress and plopped down on the armchair. The vampire count who was tied to the ground glared with bloodshot eyes, and spoke with a distinctive London accent. Darling, even if the wedding dress is a bit tight, you don't need to call your comrades to tie me up, right? Only after meeting the real person did we discover that the vampire was the Earl of Leicester, the third owner of the castle. He is handsome, stylish, and has quite an interesting taste. He likes muscular men like Qveen. As for Mr. Song, he was in the painting, being held in the arms of Duke Joseph, wandering around the banquet hall. First, he was introduced to the Red Witch who was playing the piano, then he was taken to tease Snow White's newborn child. Mr. Song was unjustly turned into a master of social interaction. Gradually, some unknown players gathered in the banquet hall. After being attacked by the monster, they all hid. At this moment, hearing the noise here, they all appeared at the same time like mushrooms after the rain. Afraid of disturbing Jenny too soon, Qiu Yuan made a shh gesture, briefly summarizing the story of the castle. The bewildered players revealed, so that's how it is, expressions, and the girls had tears in their eyes after hearing it. A moment later, only a whisper was heard, here it comes. Everyone was whispering. In a moment, whispers were heard everywhere, here it comes. Here it comes. We turned our heads to look at the stairs on the second floor. We only saw Du Lai wearing Diderot's long black robe, in the pale yellow light, walking down the stairs. Tall and thin, bald, squinting eyes, hooked nose, goatee, exactly the appearance of the great master Diderot. The appearance was very similar. But it was still possible to immediately recognize that he was not Diderot. He was not. His gestures were not elegant enough, his demeanor was not cunning enough. The real great master Diderot was mysterious like a cat, cunning like a fox, sharp like a hawk, lonely like a wolf. On Du Li's person, there was a look of bewilderment like a husky. The fake Diderot walked in front of us, timidly worried, is this okay? Will Jenny find me out? If she gets angry, will she destroy me? Ta Duong said nothing, picked up the baseball bat, and tapped Du Lai 3 times on the shoulder, back, and top of the head. These 3 knocks seemed to correct Dooley's posture, but in reality, they were secretly transmitting 3 streams of energy to him. 1 stream of energy into the heart, giving him courage. 1 stream of energy into the spine, giving him momentum. 1 stream of energy from the top of the head down, giving him spirit. Like this, Dooley looked exactly like Diderot. Even Duke Joseph was stunned, as if he had seen an old friend. He put down Song Chung'un's painting, walked alone to the piano, and bowed his head to whisper to the Red Witch. The Red Witch glanced at Dooley, also nodding in surprise. It seemed that the cosplay was very successful. The players in the banquet hall changed their costumes, everything was ready. I signaled the Red Witch, she started playing. With each dance of her fingers, the song Long Waiting rang out, sometimes as clear as a pearl falling onto a plate, sometimes as deep and mournful as a song, like a story, over and over again. Over and over again. Everyone in the banquet hall lined up. Dooley, pretending to be Master Diderot, stood at the end of the line. We all held our breaths waiting. Could this song call Jenny? One song after another, I stood until my legs were numb. The others couldn't stand anymore either. But no one complained, no one moved to rest. At this moment everyone's lives were hanging by a thread, whether they could escape the castle or not, it all depended on tonight's dance. After a long, long time, Duke Joseph began to snore, but Jenny still didn't appear. I stared at my toes, absent-mindedly humming along to the music. Soon, the students in the banquet hall began humming along, and Prince Joseph, who had been dozing off at the piano, woke up. He was in high spirits, singing loudly in German. The vampire count said gently, "If you are willing to untie me, I can play music with Madame Ekaterina. I have practiced the trombone for many years, I am very willing to serve you." Qiu Yuan hesitated for a moment, then untied him. The vampire count rubbed his numb arm, gently saying, "Thank you, darling." Qiu Yuan's veins immediately popped out, his face flushed from his ears to his neck, and he quickly ran away behind Xie Tang. The vampire count flew away calmly. When he flew back, he was indeed holding a trombone in his hand. He brushed off his cloak, and the various musical instruments fell to the ground. The elegant vampire count made an inviting gesture, smiling and saying, "If you know how to play, please feel free. It's been a long time since we've been this lively." Duan Muqing picked up the violin, and at the same time helped Mr. Song pick up a flute. Thursday Dunin hugged the Eru and conveniently handed Nguyen Hudu a mandolin. There were also a few unfamiliar players who picked up the recorder and lute one by one. Only the Suona was left alone on the ground. Everyone tried out their instruments and started practicing. Xianing and I dragged the rest of the people to find Duke Joseph and begged him to teach us to sing in German. Because in the dungeon, my identity was the leader of the choir, and I had the natural voice buff. Not long after, I had mastered the German singing of this song and sat in the corner of the banquet hall to practice. Xie Tang held the baton and guided everyone to coordinate. Under the command of the handsome man, half of the people tried to play in harmony, and the other half tried to sing in chorus. At first it was chaotic, but gradually, everything became more coherent. We were very focused, and in a moment we forgot Jenny and our fear, and were immersed in this ancient piece of music. Perhaps, this was the power of music. While we were practicing, a lot of people gradually appeared in the corners of the castle. The banquet hall was packed with people. I didn't expect there to be so many souls here. They were in pairs, dancing in the banquet hall to the music. At this moment, suddenly I heard a sigh, very light, but it seemed to sigh into my heart. A red-clothed figure suddenly appeared on the stairs to the second floor. Jenny. We continued to play music. We continued to sing loudly. Everyone was very focused. The melodious and calm music echoed in the banquet hall, and the clear and mournful singing resounded everywhere. I suddenly remembered what the great master Diderot had written on the paper: Jenny wanted to receive everyone's blessings. After all, she still cared about what others thought. She had once shouted that secret to save hundreds of lives, causing herself to fall into a vortex of malice. Hopefully she could feel our blessings. I only saw her flying down the stairs, her bare feet stepping on the marble floor, her figure light and graceful, like a young girl, like a butterfly. But her face was old and wrinkled. Her disheveled white hair fell to her shoulders, her cloudy eyes swept over each of our faces, her gaze suddenly stopping. She saw Diderot. Jenny was stunned. Through the sea of people, she looked at Diderot. She slowly walked towards him. Diderot was trembling, looking very nervous. I was also very nervous. We had been waiting for this moment. Everyone was staring at them. But just as Jenny was about to reach Diderot, she suddenly stopped, her eyes filled with confusion. She took a step back, then another step, turned around and was about to leave. Everyone Dooley looked confused. He looked at us, spread his hands, not knowing what to do. Faced with this turn of events, everyone couldn't help but stop. Jenny turned around and ran up the stairs. I shouted loudly, "Jenny!" At the same time, the heavy bronze door behind suddenly opened. A deep, hoarse male voice rang out from afar, "Jenny!" Everyone looked towards the entrance at the same time. Just a glance made everyone's heart stop beating. Diderot. He really came back? In the banquet hall, everyone held their breath, looking at the man at the door. Tall and thin, bald, squinting eyes, hooked nose, goatee, a large burn scar on his right cheek. His neck and arms were exposed outside the tattered clothes covered with horrifying burns. His whole body exuded a strange aura, looking both terrifying and strange. Behind him was a pouring rain. The rain was thick, mixed with thick fog, the black cloak was fluttering in the wind. He looked like a devil coming out of the eternal night. Jenny turned her head on the steps, her gaze passed through the crowd, looking at the devil at the door. The cloudy eyes seemed to have tears in them. The devil at the door smiled slightly, his fierce face contained a trace of gentleness. He walked into the hall, his right leg limping, his worn black boots making a clacking sound on the marble floor. The red dress flashed. Jenny rushed down from the steps. She pushed and shoved, hurriedly pushing the crowd aside, running towards him. Strange, really strange. The old, withered, cursed young lady pressed tightly into the arms of the cunning, sinister, wounded demon. Strange, really strange. But why did I want to cry? Jenny's tears rolled down, like a rushing river, washing away 100 years of lonely waiting. The silent demon hugged her, like a lost soul in the dark, finally finding the only light it had ever longed for. I turned to hug Shannon, but she had already hugged me first. Don Mok Ton hugged Ta Duong, Q Vien hugged Du Lai, Tong Lao hugged the picture frame. Crying, we cried with them. After a long while, I let go of Shannon, signaled to Ta Duong. The handsome young man coughed softly, waved his wand. Music started. Singing. The melody was deep and mournful, the voice was gentle and melodious. The whole room was filled with souls gliding in the dance. The Red Witch played the guitar and silently shed tears. Duke Joseph hummed, his face filled with gentle light. The vampire Lester blew the trombone, his handsome face revealed a gentle smile. The alchemist Diderot waved his hand, the rose crown, wedding dress, glass slippers replaced the red dress and bare feet. He took her hand and walked onto the dance floor. She happily led him, although he was limping slightly. He gently stroked her hair, although it was withered like wild grass. The music was like a calm lake under the light. The singing was like the eternal moonlight in the long night. They danced on the floor. Dancing. Time seemed to be running backwards. The pouring rain flowed back to the sky. Everyone's curses were swallowed back into their throats. The ashes flying on the pyre burst into flames, the flames gradually died down and returned to the unlit torches. The demon's legs became steady and strong. The terrifying scars on his face disappeared without a trace. The pages of time turned in the dance, time turned back, bringing the entire castle back to the past. The girl's silver hair grew back into a jet-black stream. The wrinkles on her face disappeared without a trace. Time seemed to be running backwards. Running backwards in our music, running backwards in our singing, running backwards in our blessings. Back to the original moment. The demon and the maiden smiled at each other and disappeared. The dancing spirits also disappeared. Side story: an announcement rang out in the game lobby. The Miss Jenny instance has been cleared. Number of people who have completed it, 18. Dear players, it is your kindness that has lit up Jenny's withered heart. It is the music you play that guides the lost souls back home. Your wisdom, courage, and kindness are the shining gems of humanity. Horror game, proud and honored to have you. The reward of 10,000 gold has been transferred to your account, please check. I was tired and was about to leave the game hall. Duanmu Qing ran over, Sister Kai, do you want to eat hot pot? The boy winked at me, Ta Duong, Xianan, Tong Lao and the others who were standing at the exit of the game hall. Okay. I smiled. Du Lai jumped up in joy, great, I like hot pot the most. Q Veen angrily grabbed his neck, brat, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Du Lai was bewildered, settle what score? Q Veen gritted his teeth, that stupid story you told. Almost made me lose my virginity. I'll strangle you to death. Xianan nodded repeatedly, yes, 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 I also want to strangle him to death. Du Lai ran away in fear. My friends and I laughed and walked into the light. Looking back. The game hall was bustling with noise, the audience was shouting and commenting. The words were full of cruelty, and my thoughts were inevitably paranoid. They spoke so viciously that it seemed as if they wanted to sneak into the game and skin and tear the tendons out of the players they despised. The damage and spread of rumors and malice, compared to the plague, were no less powerful, right? End of Part 6, Part 7, The Battle to Protect Lam Ton.